It's kid time for another video. Today, we're doing a bit of show and tell. So I'm showing you one of my combos. And this combo is specifically for casting lures and jigs from shore. Lately, I have been showing some of my combos and they've all been spinning reels. Which is weird because um, I actually use a lot of overheads, more than I do with spinning. But um, majority of the time, what I use is kind of unrelatable for a lot of people. And if I talk about that, then a lot of people wouldn't be able to use them because they're bait casters and overheads, as opposed to spinning rods and reels that almost everyone, or if not everyone, can use. Now, I've literally tried this, but from someone who really doesn't know anything, I've successfully taught them in less than 15 minutes, and they are casting far and straight. So, just with the short learning curve of spinning gear, anyone can actually use them. Okay, so it kind of makes sense that we're showing a lot of that. However, it doesn't mean to say that um, we should neglect the bait casters. Okay, so but instead of me actually kind of use them a lot, I'd rather have something that's relatable for most people. So we're just gonna do a show and tell for this. Alrighty. Incidentally, this is a unicorn. Okay, so the story of this rod is that I saw it being released in Japan, and the fact that it was a long rod that I could use jigs and stick baits, poppers on really appealed to me. And it had a casting range of 7 to 35 grams, and that is sort of my Goldilocks zone when it comes to shore jigging. So um, I went ahead and said like, hey, you know what? I have to have this rod, and the shipping was more expensive than the rod. I found one tucked away somewhere, and managed to get it. But since it's off size, it was very difficult to bring in. Very, very difficult. Um, Here it is, or half of it. This is an Abu Garcia Eradicator rockshore game. Even has like a nickname, the Pinpoint Sniper. This thing is rated for PE 1 to 3 and casting weight of 7 to 35. And you could short jig with this, as I have, and it balances out really well with an Abu Garcia inshore. This is an inshore 3, and the combo that I mostly use with this reel, it's a Calcutta Conquest 200 HG, and it fits perfectly on this one. The balance is actually quite good on this, and this rod is about 300 grams or so, but because of the length and the addition of the reel here, a little heavier reel actually works really well and balances out because of the length. you know um, they spared no expense for this particular rod. Now I want you to listen to this. That is an unsanded blank. You know what that means? This is the strongest state of the rod when it is unsanded. So it basically means they pulled the blank off of the assembly line, took the tape off, and then put the guides on and finished it. Now, normally, it gets sanded so it's smooth, and then it gets painted on, and then that's your rod. The problem is, of course, you lose a bit of stiffness and power if you do that. But because they left it unsanded, even the top section is unsanded, this is the most powerful state of this rod. And it does exactly that, actually. So I've caught some pretty gnarly fish with this from shore. Um, and I don't use it because if I broke it, I have no way to replace it. So I use it sparingly from time to time, but the distance that you get from this is just amazing. The action that it gives you, it's a really really good rod. Now, um, total length is 11 feet. Okay, and I also use this with an Abu Garcia inshore reel, which makes the combo a bit lighter. It's still an okay balance, and it's low profile. So if I'm in the mood for palming, I could just use this reel, and it also casts really well, casts far, and I mostly use this if I'm using lures. But if I'm using jigs, I use this, and there are some heavy spoons that I use, and I basically use this for anything that's heavy, uh, metal or whatever. But the Soran Heavy Minnow, I also use this. But if they're soft plastics, some floating plugs, and what else? Stick baits, I use this. Okay, poppers, I use the Calcutta. So with this, I'd be able to cast small poppers and stick baits, work them really, really well from afar. So it gives me really good action. Plus the leverage that this gives me is really good. Now, unlike a lot of longer rods, this is actually fast action. Very, very fast action. And it's the stiffness gives it sensitivity, gives you a better cast when it comes to uh, like the heavier jigs, even the small ones made of lead, obviously like a 10-gram jig Farah, casts so well with this. It is just amazing. And the rod is not sluggish at all. So very, very responsive, very sensitive. I haven't used bait on this, but the closest thing that I've ever used on this rod that sort of is almost like bait would be soft plastic. So the thing with this rod, okay, the thing with this rod is that it is a long range presentation rod, and that's exactly what I got it for. And the whole idea is that you're fishing from shore and you're lined up with a few people, all right, and most, if not all of them, have the same casting range. So if I'm able to cast farther and present my lure farther than them, meaning beating their range, if I could beat their range, then I'd be able to fish in waters that are less pressured. And that's the whole idea of this rod. And if I take this to a place like the Palm, and even if it's just us that fishes in like that place where I've made some videos there, but if I fish there with this, I'm able to reach areas where my companions and my fishing buddies are not able to reach, and even that is a big thing. Now, you know how residents are actually walking up and down the beach, and sometimes just enjoying their area, their beach front. That creates disturbance, and this will cast to areas where there is absolutely zero disturbance. So meaning the fish are not skittish, and this is what this rod specializes in. That's it. So yeah, I don't expect people to find this and say like, "Oh, kid, I got the same rod." Uh, like I said, it's kind of a unicorn and not for sale anymore. But it's part of the collection, and from time to time I do use it, and I love it. It's a very nice rod. The guides are K guides and micro, as you can see, no tangles at all, and there are times when I really whacked the crap out of this with a metal jig and the 200, and I've reached distances that I could only reach with bigger weights, and I was using a 20. It was amazing. Just perfect for this. It's just that I think 20 grams for this is actually just perfect. Any heavier than that, let's say like a 30, even if it's within the 35-gram maximum range that it recommends. If you put 30, it's the rod kind of acts like sluggish already, but at 20 grams, this thing is just perfect. And it actually caught me a huge narrow barred mackerel in an area where we thought they weren't there. And the only reason why I was able to catch it was that I was really casting to where no one was reaching. And yeah, I was alone fishing that day. Uh, didn't even have anyone to take footage of me fighting that fish. But when I landed that fish, the passers-by were just so shocked that there was something that big swimming there. And mind you, it was big. I think I do have a video of the fish running when I took a video, with my phone. But when the fish was up close, I couldn't just, I had to put the phone in my pocket and try to land the fish, which I did. And that got me into the habit of taking a gaff with me in the car all the time. Because that gaff would have helped me a lot landing that fish. But, it was, anyway, very funny story with this rod. And that was the first time I used it. So imagine doing that or experiencing that just because, you thought that, okay, I need a rod that would be able to just reach areas. And this is it. Now, would I have been able to do that with the spinning rod? Maybe. But the thing is, the spinning rods also, it's very difficult to find uh, the same, what do you call this, the same specs. Like, take for example, I have my old rod, which is a 10-footer, and it's only a foot less, okay? It's only a foot less with similar specs. Now, that foot actually matters a lot. It matters so much, it's unbelievable. That's an extra few yards in the cast. Now also remember that the dynamics between the spinning rod and, let's say, a bait caster is also very, very different. Now if you know how to tune your bait caster and tune your equipment, it would outcast spinning rod. Okay, even and both with braid, because as braid goes out of the spool, what happens with the spinning rod is that let's say this is the face of the spool, this is your spool right here, and then the line diminishes, okay? As it diminishes, the line has to go up and over the lip, and that creates friction. Also, the guides of the rod, okay, so the spinning guides are like this. So the guides, actually the line spirals, and it spirals on all of the guides up to the tip. So there's a lot of friction that happens in the cast of a spinning rod. That's why the casts on spinning gear are generally shorter than overheads. Now you'll see this in surf casting, especially the long distance casting in the UK, and a record is like absurd, and although there are people competing with spinning reels, they're on a different category. You just can't beat overheads for distance. So yeah, again, something for distance. It works, sort of a unicorn. But if you can find something like this, especially with the spec 7 to 35, and if you like bait casters, this is something that you should have in your collection, and definitely something to use regularly, not like me. But then again, I have a lot, and I do a lot of types of fishing, so I have a really good excuse. All right, so that's it for this video. If you learned something, give this video a thumbs up, and if you want your friends to learn with you, click on the share, and if you haven't yet and want to learn more, click on that subscribe button. there's a lot more of combos that we're gonna talk about. So this is sort of like the jig library, but what I'll do with this is just recommending the specs and what I'm using these things for. Alrighty, so that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Class dismissed.